So I will introduce you the case study. As I said, there is one case study, yeah, I don't want to name the client, but actually, there is, one of a European client of ours, he has given us, he's into healthcare. He has, I mean, many parts of the solution. One part is hardware, other part is backend, and one part is mobile application. And, his problem was, he has developed it in the last 6, 7 years. Anything, they want to change, it has come to a stage, where, they're not able to invest more or, satisfy customers in a reliable way. The original code had 70,000 lines and yeah, close to 20 man years of Android application. And, they are collecting a lot of data, real-time data, almost from 130 parameters from their hardware. And, they are selling that hardware by millions. So what I can show you is, you can see my Android Studio.
Yes, sir, we can see it.
Yeah, so this is the code, yeah, so this is actually a sub part of that bigger screen. I will run it and show you so that you get a sense of what is this, application is all about. This is an application which is in real time is collecting a lot of sensor data and giving you graphical representation of that data. So you can observe the slowness. You can see that how painful is it to for developer to enhance it. So there are actually basically there are 4 parameters shown out of more than 100. Just to as a sample. So this is what now it dies. Afterwards, it just dies. So that way, debugging is a pain, performance is a pain, any improvement. And this we are talking about out of 70,000 lines. Yeah, we actually this application was when it came to us, we actually request them to give a sample, and we help them to bring out that sample application so that we can show the improvement. If you really see, I mean, does anybody, I mean, all of you understand, what is this application is all about?
To answer your question that do we understand what this application is about? From what I can understand, it's a healthcare application, and it's probably an Android application. Is that's what my guesses are?
Yes, yes. It is a, yeah, we are actually talking about a case study on the Android part of the application.
And it runs a report based on the parameters from where they collected, as he suggested, 120 parameters of different feeds that we input to the application. It collectively generates a summary, kind of some computation it does and shows it. But the very main part is it is not very intuitive, or it's kind of sluggish. It goes. It is not really helping the people to get the status as appropriate. So that is what the main pain point you are trying to project it.
Perfect. Right? Perfect. That, yeah, performance was one of the pain point. And they were not able to scale it for more intuitiveness, as well as the speed at which development was not happening, in spite of they have spent millions on development.
Yeah. Thank you.
Right. So that way, yeah, this was the original piece. From original piece, we actually isolated a part of it. And yeah, some parts are actually during the isolation like this. All of you can see the code.
Yes, yes, we are able to see the entire screen. Yeah.
Yeah. So this main activity is the one which we could isolate from that 70,000 plus lines, and then yeah, we were able to run for example anything for clean code, you need to be able to measure it, not for fixing it alone, but to get a sense of what it means by what am I trying to improve upon. And that is where you could see yeah, you can have one plugin called a statistic, which can give you all that once you run it, it will give you I wish, all the developers install this as a part of IntelliJ plugin. So it can give you a lot of information, I mean, minimal information, especially for, which is the biggest class, what are number of lines of code. And if you observe this, it is around 874 lines of code. And then, maybe, yeah, if you remove the blank lines, it may be, lesser. So yeah, the focus is on actually main activity.java. And there is another metric, yeah, if somebody is not happy with it, there is another metric, you can calculate metrics from, there is a metric analysis plugin is there. So this also gives you a lot of information. But yes, you'll be able to correlate. So how many, non-code like blank lines and all. And beyond that, yeah, so once you get, peripheral view of any code base, then you get comfort, right? It is after all, yeah, 800 or less than 1,000 lines of code. But yes, originally from 70,000, we were able to get this part of it because, this part was mostly repeated. These patterns were mostly repeated after the careful analysis. And then we did a little more linting. For example, we have also used SonarLint, which shows, there are around 66 issues in one area. And then, at least, IntelliJ itself, when you say analyze, inspect code, it gives you almost 103. You can see this 103, and then 4-week references, 24, or I can run it once and then show you. Yeah, there are around 65 plus, Android specific issues. There are a lot of, around 103 issues. That way you should run any of your code first at a basic level. Yeah, number of, lines of code, what are the files, which is the maximum file, how many blank lines are there, how many commented lines are there. That gives you a peripheral view of, the code base, which you are trying to convert it into clean code and to save the, engineering efforts, as well as, make the developer productivity higher and higher. So we also actually run, because yeah, we don't depend on, one tool, because, it may, I mean, everybody, or, everything can give you something better, something, more better. So that way, what happens is, I would advise every developer to may install, yeah, 4 or 5 tools. We are aware of more than 300 tools, which I can show you. But yeah, depending on the stack, yeah, you can apply some of them. And we also run PMD, which actually shows, 626 violations. Just on 800 lines of code, you can see so many, violations. And, there is one more, you can run QA plugin. So these are all similar tools, but, it gives you very good sense of, yeah, this has got 234. So that way, what happens is, yeah, when, I mean, we can always ignore saying that I am done. But, if you really want to be a professional developer, you should be worried about, what the tools are saying, how to increase your, self-reputation as a product, developer. So these give you, some of them may be very simple, not that, they'll be very difficult, but, but when it comes to management viewing it, it is seen as a serious vulnerability, serious threat to the product. And in fact, this customer was already facing it. Every time, they used to say that, yeah, we can do it better and better. But finally, I mean, everybody gets caught in the last mile firefighting mode. So my request to you as a developer, please, make sure that, you are responsible for your own productivity. Don't expect process or manager is responsible. And that is where, yes, the way I induce, serious thinking is through the clean code. And before the clean code, please try to, make sure that, you have some tools in place which can give you some numbers like this. So that way, yes, I told you, right? This version 1 of the demo, actually, version 0 was to, separate those 70,000 line into some meaningful 1,000 lines. And then, once we analyze, the QA plugin gave 234. You can see my slides, right? Hello?
Yes, sir. We can see. Thank you. Yeah.
PMD is around whatever I showed
Right.
you, 632. And then when you inspect the code, using IntelliJ itself, it was giving 115. SonarLint was giving 236. And total issues, in 800 lines of code, you could find 1217. And in fact, this client has run more mature, advanced commercial grade analyzers, and then entire code base has given him more than 40,000 issues, which he was almost shocked. So one approach, we can always say that, okay, I will go by issue, and then have a big project plan, and then start delivering, one after the other, and then keep. Unfortunately, what happens is, when you do that, one tool may say correct it, other tool may give more regressions. So this is a never-ending game. This they have also tried, but they could not, project manage and do it. That's where I said, as a developer, you should always worry about your productivity. Yes, tool is just for information, but how do you handle it? Not for the sake of tool, but how do you improve yourself as a clean coder? So some of the tools we have been using in the last 16 years are so many, right? For this, I just showed you 4 or 5, tools which actually help you. But this is one list, which, we have been, using it in various client scenarios and, based on a different context of it. So so basically, yes, I did introduce you about what is the case study, what is the context of the case study, and how it can actually make developers take the pain, because managers can just run this tool and then say that oh yeah, boss, there are so many problems, you have not done the work. And this is where, as a developer, you should be worried about defining projects and products, or the definition of projects and products in the context of business. But when it comes to you as a developer, I would sincerely request all of you, you should not differentiate product and project, because projects have finite budget and finite timeline, but the problems associated with projects will remain same as products also. So that way, unless you take a product approach, even projects delivery becomes very, very difficult for developers. And what we think as a scope for a product and what we think as a project scope, they're never ending. Management may differentiate it, but I would always request, please, don't look at it, in that way, though it may come to you as a project because of some of these reasons listed. And another area where I'm just trying to seed some things, so that, developers are able to understand why refactoring for self-improvement. So that is where one of the reasons is, yes, you should know difference between product and a project. From the business angle and from developer angle, it should be the same. And then, when it comes to functionality and NFR, I think, yes, I've seen a lot of developers that are extremely good in somehow getting the functionality done. But when it comes to NFR, which are actually, now in these days of, cloud era and scale of, e-commerce, NFRs are, much more, 90% efforts. But unfortunately, the traditional world was always looking at, NFRs as a testing scope, not as a development scope. And that is one of the gap which is actually making, firefighting, much more usual in the context of, software development. But I wish all of you break that. NFRs are no more a testing way of achieving it, but it is meant for an opportunity for perfecting your code. Unless you perfect your code properly, there is no way testing team can actually help you. So please remember that, yes, there is nothing called product and project when it comes to development. And, there is nothing called, trying to achieve NFR through hardware scale or, through testing approach. You, as a developer, you have to perfect your code. So some of the challenges, I'm just listing it. Yes, as a developer, you can always blame, legacy. You can always, there are too many future plans keep coming in as you deliver it, and present application itself, it's a highly, messed up. And, and we also have to work with, super skilled people, average people, and low skilled people, which means that's what the teamwork is all about. And yes, most of the IT services is actually getting into. I mean, they're already into mostly process and management approach. Unfortunately, when it comes to code, it is an intellectual effort, not a process or it may help 10%, but other 90% is supposed to be real intellectual work. And and then finally, because we get into commoditized thinking, there is hardly any budget and timelines. So which actually demands, either you have two options in this scenario. Either you become a manager and then start blaming others, or you become a super engineer and then try to take, do something better, taking constraints as an opportunity to grow. So I would always recommend, engineers to take that as an opportunity and be very, very efficient as possible. And that is from the engineer's perspective. Yes, industry also has got challenges because they have to take care of showing success to the customer, and that is where they put more and more monitoring efforts, more and more process efforts, more and more standardization. And that is because industry is well known that more than 70% of the projects fail. So which is actually a sad part, because after spending millions and with after hiring highly qualified employees at all cadres, including management and development, we definitely want to make sure that the success rate of projects will increase. So all of you are with me?
Yes, I do have a question if I can ask. I'm not sure. Souvik, do I park it for the end of the session, or I've actually posted it in the group chat as well? Hello. Am I audible? Can you hear me?
Yeah, Raghavan, I can hear you.
Yes, sir. Hi. Hey, it's a very good point, right? I do agree with you that the NFRs can be potentially considered. I don't differ. But to what extent that you suggest, right? See, NFRs can be from various different perspectives, right? So, which is not purely with the functional requirements, the non-functional aspects of the development that we do, right? It could be from infra, the capacity, performance, various other things. And definitely from performance-oriented thing, developers can optimize the code. That's the sure shot, no issues at all. But there are other areas like infra, right? Those aspects, how do we definitely tackle it, right? Do you have an idea on that?
Sure. I will cover some of these on how to think like NFRs as a functionality rather than as a something beyond the developers.
That will be wonderful. Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
So yes, again, one more thing is unsuccessful projects, products, from some of the statistics. These are all again I picked up. Maybe yes, it may change from each person's reference. So somewhere you see that there are a lot of challenges which I cannot. Okay. So yeah, that way there are so much very high percentage of projects are failing. And when it comes to more detailed statistics, you can see that so far we have so much of code, close to 2 trillion lines of code, and it is growing 100 billion lines of code every year. So 7% increase in in the code. So though we are talking about low code, no code, this will continue only, because even low code products are generated using some code, right? So that way, what I actually we should classify our inefficiencies or failures or budget losses into different ways. So if you say productivity as is a combination of architecture, testing, knowledge, and many other code depth, technological debt. Now, at least we have a way to attack it, right? We are saying we agree that there are so many projects are failing. The engineers have problem, management has a problem, and but finally I am only requesting that as a developer you don't become a compressed because of all these pressures. And that is where I'm trying to introduce, take some of your professional thinking little different than what you are used to, if you really want to do a better or produce products even in the project context. So that is where you can break your pressures into some of these. If you have a knowledge gap, try to fix it. If you have a testing gap, fix it. If you have an architecture gap, fix it. So like that, then at least we are trying to attack it in certain way. So yes, we are all aware of this, right? Yeah, we commit during planning stage, something, and then what comes out is, yeah, it's like, yeah, a children's art. And, because that actually doesn't reflect all of us, because we are highly qualified. And, but, we should also know the reality that, budget is not there, or, budget is not enough, or time is not enough. Scope keeps increasing, and then yeah, resources also, because the budget is not there, they try to cut cost of the resources, and yeah, like that, and finally quality is compromised. Once you compromise quality, I think these are all the side effects. So let us see, why this happens. When it comes to why this code base. Now, what I am saying is, we have understood all these problems, and I am only requesting all of you to think that don't try to take anything personal, and you only say that it is a problem with the code base, rather than trying to I mean, I think in somewhere I feel that industry is not seeing products, they're only seeing people and process. That is a top-down approach, but as developers, you are paid for products. So always look at it from a product, and product will have to live with or without you, which means people have to become redundant. Better they become redundant, they will go to higher level of execution. So that way, let us see, yeah, I mean, but product is just nothing but a code base, right? If you really see it, it is a code which is running, in your absence. So that way, please say product. Again, yes, we can have different definitions, but in this context, please look at product as some code base. And yes, there are, and what are the challenges to have a better code base? Yes, we have stakeholders have problem, developers have problem, quality is tested in. As I told you, NFRs are not, something which is achievable by testing it. It has to be built into the code base. And yeah, we do have underpowered technical leaders. Yeah, nobody wants to work at a code level. As they become seniors, they want to manage the deliveries rather than really engineer a delivery. So that way, yes, we do have problems, which nobody can actually stop. But if you are a developer, you can do something. All right. Okay. One level I told you that how to break the problem, that yes, we will say that, there is some gaps in the testing, development, architecture, knowledge. And we can also see that, where is our development investment going? Yeah, some of them create positive value, because yes, I think most of us spend, time on features, and, bugs will definitely deter us from, I mean, I think, yeah, it is actually a negative time waste. It is a time waste if it is done well, properly. And some of them are invisible. They're important, but, yeah, they have positive value, like architecture, logging, metrics, a lot of these testing, we should take care of it. And then, yeah, finally, yeah, we come technical debt, where people keep patching, because it is a shortcut approach. So let us see that, yeah, you can see the impact of, technical debt in all the places. Yes, I think as a developer, you must have experienced that, yeah, you have been working 24/7, and customer says something, and, you're already under fire, and people are not happy, users are not complaining too much, and, backlog is increasing, and, deliveries as usual, yeah, you think, 1 week, even after 6 weeks, it is the same problem. So I hope all of you are able to connect to all these pains, right?
Yes, sir, we definitely can.
Yeah. Nagendra, I do have a question. Is it all right if I can?
Sure, please.
Yeah. The previous, one of the slides that you have given a good phrase, client satisfaction versus team satisfaction, right? I really like that, right? So do we have, see, I do understand the kind of repercussions from a developer's perspective, that, in order to plug in these refactoring aspects, it could definitely slow down. That could be one of the major hurdles where people are not really inclined. So do we have some best practices or artifacts which is proven in the industry with which, we achieve this client versus team satisfaction that is well balanced, with which, possibly the team people can convince the management some sort of artifacts which we can present it.
Sure, definitely. I think I will cover them. Some of them I already gave a hint that, yes, like, yeah, don't think it as a project, deliver and
Agreed.
get out. And even NFRs, yes, as I told you, it is actually code perfection.
Yep.
So yes, I think some of these doubts actually, yeah, because we have been practicing it from last 16 years. I think I will, yes, I'm only trying to see, the developer mindset has to change.
Agree.
So one of the things I tell you, right, yeah, if you have a clean code, like you mentioned that, it may take more time. But actually, I want to say that, clean code should take lesser time. Otherwise, you're not doing clean code.
Agree.
So I will give some tips with the case study. Then you will understand, why I'm saying that.
Sure. I would like to supplement my point here, right? See, project versus product, those are all kind of, more of a, definitely is a mindset shift, I don't deny. But most likely it may tend to take up the philosophical aspect of it, right? But what I'm really looking at it is a proven artifacts, where we could say that using this is how some sort of artifacts where we can publish it as part of the proposal, wherein this could be really convincing the management and we get the buy-in from them as well, right?
Sure. Can you park this? Yes, maybe I'll give
please.
Full story of what, from where we have bought this this code base to where.
Thank you. Yep.
So beyond that, if those gaps we can talk about.
Sure.
So yeah, basically, again, as I said, see, one of these, when we say cost, we are always talking about a cost with reference to hours and days. And nobody is talking about total cost and, total efforts. And that is where, if you really start seeing.
I'm sorry, can I request you to go on mute, Vivek? Okay, sorry, Nagendra sir, please go ahead.
Yeah. So please make sure that, see, when you talk about hours or fast, please keep in mind, we are talking about, at least as a developer, you're talking about total cost of the solution when it is going to production. If you start focusing, you as a developer, if you start doing patchwork, I can do it in 5 minutes. And then, clean work, you can do it in 1 hour. And that way you compare, actually you are killing you're going into your own grave. Managers can say it, but as a developer, you are responsible for customer service. And if you really see, most of the time, those calculations are not there. Most of the time, in the fire and confusion, these calculations are misled. And if you really, if you have a good project manager, even he writes it. So maybe that, as I said, without technical debt, the optimal cost of change is much, much lesser, either on time or as well as on the budget. But again, yes, maybe I think one point, maybe if the project is too small, it doesn't matter. But if you think as a product approach, it will have, a good lifespan. And over a period of time, you have to take a control on technical debt. So yes, I don't negate that, the perception and reality, that is where I think, most of the people, fail. All the systems are also started to fail because the perception of cheap, but and reality of, cost and timeline are different. So let's come to the, like I think, one of the points was asked, how do we convince management, right? Yes, I would say don't convince them. You take a responsibility, but anyway, if you want, these are some of the slides. So let's talk about money involved. So yeah, exactly, if you really see, how developers spend time, if somebody can invest because your project management, they're anyway investing a lot. So writing a new code, is observed to be only 32%. Meetings and management and operations are 23%. And maintenance of the code, 19%, testing, 27%, security and other. So that way, what is happening is, if you really see, as a developer, we all love to write a new code, right? And from 32%, if you can actually increase it to, 68% more, I mean, by cutting meetings, management, and testing effort, you already saved a lot of money. So please always look at it from, where all I'm spending my money, my time and money. And that is where this is one of the statistics which gives you very clearly that, developers are not, they're spending time only on 32% on writing a new code. It is again an average in the context of one, but yes, it may differ. But I would say that, even 32 can be a bare minimum. It cannot go up as a large code, enterprises. And then, yes, based on the analysis of, some of the applications, the technical debt, as I said, yes, we have code quality issues. We differentiated into many areas to improve. And one of the area we are talking about is the technical debt. And then in that context, we are talking about financials involved and then time waste. And, yes, per line of code, people are seeing that, $3.61 is lost. If it is handled well, you are already saving a lot of money. But yes, when you say handled well, in the context of my salary, in the context of as an employee, what I am doing, it may not work. But if you see it from a context of I'm responsible for a product, this all makes sense. And you also grow as an intellectual product developer. So in terms of Java, which is actually 20 years, 25 years old code, I know, but still, you see, very highest technical debt is, is there in Java code also. So that way, yeah, I mean, this is one of the case study which was in the network, internet. But I'm sure, you take any technology, it comes in saying that, it is a magic. But as they start opening, as they start, using it, on a scale, these problems will continue forever. If it is not Java, C#, Go, anything, please, again, as a developer, yes, I don't want to come in a way of your interviews and job, but trust me, whatever you do in the next few centuries with low code, no code, this technical debt is bound to grow up. Because, people are doing it, thinking that it is like a magic. Unfortunately, software is not a magic. So please, yeah, so technical debt will not die even with no code or low code. In fact, it will increase much more. So some of the calculations somebody has given it, cost of duplication. So exactly, yes, I think one of the questions was asked was, how do we save money or how do we save time? So if you calculate it properly, then you will know that, yes, I have so much of duplication. I have so much of violation. In this, 1,000 lines, we could see 1,200, 1,200 violations. So if we think, without doing all that, I can go to production, then I think, you're doing your job. You're not a product guy. So, but if you ever had a product guy, you have to include, all these calculations and then make sure that, you're more aware of, what it means by becoming more productive for self-improvement. I would, yes, I am also not saying that, you take this flag and expect entire system to behave like that. But because I work with more than 1 lakh people, I can clearly say that, yeah, all of you can take this load and become, 4 times productive, minimum 4 times productive you can become. So again, yes, this is another area where, yeah, one of the, recent, one of the CIOs said that, yeah, when we could reduce, technical debt, we could actually, get down the, bring down the technical efforts of, my team by 25%, which means, they were able to save, more than 50%. Right? Yeah, again, as I said, yes, unless you as a developer, if you're not aware of where is your time wasted, or where you are being, seeing the pain, I think nobody can help. I think I'm sure I have given up on saying, I think I don't want to say that, or managers will change or, your VP of engineering will change. They will not change because their role is that. But you can change it with little effort and you can actually see them envy you. Because, when you're not sweating, I think, it is a good state to be in. So basically, yes, we said, yeah, there are a lot of flaws and we said clean code. And from there, we said, yeah, there is a cost. We also said that there is a cost involved. There is a lot of wastage and we narrowed to technical debt. And we also showed, what is the existing debt in the industry. And, basically, yeah, the simple solution for that is, yeah, focus on code quality, not binary quality, code quality. And it is actually free. In fact, it expands your time. So one of the things is, if you do it, very, very nicely, it expands time. I will show you with the demo what it means by expanding time. So I'm trying to say that, code quality is free means, not that, somebody saying, free, you can actually save a lot more time than, trying to do extra efforts. But yes, you have to be really, really professional. I mean, that I don't know, yes, if somebody stops, then you, I mean, dealing with them, I don't want to consider. But yes, if you buy clean code, you can definitely save a lot of time and money. So basically, yes, what does free means? Yeah, to fix it, it takes lesser cost than, not fixing it. And, yeah, see, the poor quality always costs, because there will be a repetitive work, there will be a repetitive patching, you have to give a lot of explanation. And, yeah, you can actually separate them, cost savings include, yeah, there could be visible cost, which could be, sometimes, as I said, 70% of the projects fail, finally it becomes a scrap. Or, somebody decides to rewrite entire code base because it is already unmanageable. Or, yeah, we do see some customers come to us, they actually because they promise something and then, they get into legal issues and they're not able to, because they are not able to satisfy the customer. So the warranty, in a business, yeah, if you fail to meet the promises, it really costs. And yeah, hidden costs are much more. I mean, you are actually seeing people. I think unfortunately, what happened was, yeah, if everybody is busy, that is considered as efficiency. But actually, yeah, we should see reverse. If all professionals are busy, which means something is wrong. Professionals do professional work in a professional way. Why should they expect? Yeah, once in a while is fine, but if it is happening in a too much way, it is a clear sign of process debt. Somebody in the top or somebody somewhere is not doing their job well, and somebody else has to take that sweat, that load. So this is another reason we say that, yeah, we say talk about process structure, but when it comes to accountability, taking a lot of accountability in the last mile, nobody is accountable, which actually means, yeah, the defined structure will not help. Defined structures will not help. 1 minute. And, yeah, there are a lot of inconsistencies. We can find that, in some time, it will work properly. Some other play time, it doesn't work. So now, now when a bug is exposed and if it is inconsistent, and if the developer is not able to instantly find, which itself is a big investment for him to make sure that, why is it inconsistent? And yes, yeah, the team also, yeah, when you get into the management, style of, delegation, finally what you get, spaghetti code, slow, insecure, unstable. I mean, all these factors are, I mean, why am I saying all this? We should be aware of what is happening to talk about, why clean code is free or how clean code, can really be useful. So this is another area. Yes, yeah, if you can prevent, yeah, if you can actually, I mean, if you can't prevent it, then you have to invest on, appraisal. You have to do more testing. Internal failure is, during, demos. Yeah, you start getting a lot of, red balls. Then you have some problem. And external failure is the most dangerous. Most dangerous. So these are the levels. If you can prevent it, you are actually saving more. If you're doing it at a testing time, you are spending more. So like this, yes, quality release cost, yeah, so now basically we are talking about, saving of time, money, and then, through the quality. And then you will see that, prevention is something where, developers actually play a vital role. All other areas, it goes beyond you, but yeah, you are indirectly impacted, because you get disturbed. Somebody says that testing is a bug, you are supposed to work on it and then, show some solution. They're all distractions, but if you can prevent it, that's the best way. So please remember this rule. Yeah, if you spend, 1 rupee on prevention, you will save 10 rupees spent on appraisal, 100 rupees on failure cost. So which means, yeah, as you know, it is like, 10x, right? 10 times. Like that, always try to see as a developer, how can you be, at a prevent, how can you do a lot of steps to prevent a lot of bugs at the initial stage, or, inefficiencies at the initial stage. So unless, yes, I'm not against, somebody saying, yeah, if I'm on fire, my job is at security. That's a different, way of thinking. But my intention is to promote as developers, professional developers. What is that? Even after doing clean code, you still have fire. And not that, there is no, but only thing, make sure that, you are efficient enough so that you are more challenged rather than trying to be at a peripheral end and then trying to fight at, first steps. Because products are not that simple. They're like Mahabharata and, they're deeper than ocean. And so much of code has to be written. How much you simplify it, there is something more. So these are all some of the standard tips. So please try to focus on rework. Please focus on how much time spent on defects. And then, the downtime also, make sure that, production downtime is very, very minimal. So now let us see how do we handle it, right? So one of the ways is, I showed you that, you have to capture some of the insights. If you can visualize it, is well and good. Otherwise, also there are tools which can help you to know what is the complexity, static code analysis results, and maintainability factors. If you can really observe the behavior of developers, how smooth they are writing the code, all these are very, very visible. It is, and we think, we may make a mistake saying that, oh yeah, the functionality is very complex. I mean, it is partly right, but that is not everything. There are a lot of complicated complexity. We talk about, instead of being simply, writing it properly in a peaceful way, they would have complicated. I have seen some code where I don't want to name it, there are some IIT grads that have seen it again, because I could see from the name and then I could find out. They are writing, 40 parameters. And it is coming from, one of the most branded MNC, American MNC. And they have a justification for it. So again, yes, please take my talk in the context of you as a developer. I'm not trying to change entire system, but if you as a developer, you see it, you can do wonders. Yeah, some of the tools which I already showed you, some of them I told you from the 300 list. At least you should have SonarQube, find bugs, PMD, and always ask a team, that we are challenged. You have to share your knowledge. Track defects by location and code. Yeah, that's again a project manager. If you want to show the value, he has to do that, real work. Not saying, if you want to do with perception, definitely no debates or, no numbers can help, because, perception, people can, sell the stories, not the reality. So basically what I am promoting is, at least as a first step, try to refactor. It is always, I mean, when you are adding a new feature, the old feature and old code may become, very difficult for you to put in this new feature. I can give you an example. So for example, I'll go back to so this is the new code which actually what did we do after seeing 1200? We said, yeah, you are given us the metric, allow us to do our job. It is not about saying that we will go by case and then start doing our work as per the tool. We only said very simple thing. So one of the problems they had, I think is, here one of the challenge they had for developers was how to make sure they're able to test the product as they make the changes to the code. Okay, so what if you have seen the old code, it was able to just run the application and exit it, and every time they have to relaunch it. That was one problem which was actually inefficient. And second problem was If the network was down, they were actually running around, why the network is down, because, parallelly hardware was evolving, software in the backend was evolving. And then these people already, there's a messed up code. So all these was actually making developers not able to change their code base properly. So this was one of the biggest inefficiency which we saw in the beginning, and which we said, we will use mocking. Hello?
Yes, yes. Hello.
So now you see that, yes, if you want to run everything in the context of, somebody is saying it, then you are bound to make lot of inefficiency automatically and then take an excuse of process. But if we are a head of developer, what is that I can do it? So what we have done was, we have taken a series of some data in the form of file, and then we have put that as a mock data. You can see this mock data. Hello?
Yes, sir. Yes,
yes, sir.
yes,
Yes.
we are able to see.
So now what we've done is, now you see like as I said, as a developer, I said I want to save my time. The first thing is, can you test this code? Yes, there are no unit tests still for this, but at least in the lack of unit tests, I want to be independent from the backend, independent from the hardware. And that is where, we actually broke it down these features into business feature, into even developer feature. Where can I do mocking? And this is where you would see that, can it use mocking data? So this is the real-time data. If you disable, if you enable it, then the mocking will happen. So this actually itself has saved, more than, this itself has saved, easily, 2 hours per day for developers. 4 or 5 developers are there. And then every day, they are able to become more and more smart. And, there were debates, do we need to mock it? This is the final version. But they're all fine, but once we showed them how simple is it to mock, and then there was some problem, now, boss, then I have to build it for mocking as well as I have to build it for production. So now now that's what we have converted into a menu option. So where, use mocking or, use production. So that way what happens, every feedback and every resistance you are getting as a developer, if you wear that hat, but you don't have to be, very intelligent to get the requirements, frankly speaking, because we are not in an era where products are, so differentiating, right? But if you do 2-3 iterations, definitely, you can reach to 70 to 80% of, mature requirements. So this is the way, you have to break all your resistance and all your pains into a functionality required by business, functionality to be done by developers. So now this has actually improved, not only that, can I first, in case, development activity is not working, the production thing is not working, I can always make sure that, it works at least with the mock data. That gives me some confidence that, my part of the code is better now. And then the debugging time has also substantially reduced, because now they're not coming every time, that, there is something wrong. Hardware people are saying I'm right, and then these people are saying, no, we are not getting it right. So this is the way, as a developer, if you really see the resistance, there could be a good features for the product, not just for trying to say I do mucky. You give me the requirement, then that is something, please take functionality and non-functionality. There's a slight, beyond certain extent, there is so much of scope which can actually converge and then come into functionality. So please take, yes, as I said, clean code is one. You have so many ways to, you create that, focus on technical debt, and then come, the numbers involved, in the losses, and then try to focus on refactoring. And then, from refactoring, try to see, whatever is the resistance, try to convert it into, take the ownership as a developer, and then see how you can reduce your time. So yes, there's a standard practice is do nothing, and then we can always, learn a way to how to tell that, this is not my problem and enjoy the, entire fire. That is one way. Other approach is, can you replace that code? Or because that's another big decision, right? The product is already, millions of lines of code, and then after 6 years or 10 years, you throw away the code and then start, redoing it again. But again, after 6-10 years, it is the same story. But it is a huge cost. It is not going to be, it is another, step, but, it is not a permanent solution. The third one is incremental refactoring. This is what we promote strongly. Our developers are equally capable and very, very capable. If we know that we are responsible, I have to do something, then we strongly recommend incremental refactoring. That is where, that incremental refactoring is not that, you do it in air. Maybe you get it a bug, around that bug, you do it, or you need to put in, new feature around that, you try to do refactoring. So this is the way, every context which is coming to you as a developer, take that as a refactoring opportunity. So now how do you improve, quality levels? Yes, make sure that, so now you have so much of code base, right? You cannot say that, I will do massive refactoring. Once we agree that, incremental level, you can always focus on every issue, what is its impact on the user, expectation, deployment correctness, attribute correctness, environmental correctness. Can I make, my, development environment better? Can I make sure that, method calls are changed properly? So behavioral, structural, I would say at least focus on initially structural correctness. If not, because, I'll tell you what I mean by structural correctness. So that way, you have to keep improving your code base at different levels based on the context which is forced on you. Think, breaking it into different contexts. Either it's from architecture, either from user perspective. Can I improve my, class, names? Anything is fine. It should be inline. One of the things we say, inline developer behavior for refactoring. It is not a separate exercise. So unfortunately, yes, I mean, though I showed you some tools, I don't want to say that, they are 100% authentic to say that, if you fix all of them, oh yeah, you have a better quality. No, but that is because quality itself is highly subjective, and everybody can have their own quantitativeness, in terms of numbers. And what do you mean by code readable? Developer may say it is readable for me, but for others. So that is where, always, we want to talk about clean code in the context of each individual developer. So that, they are, as long as they are happy, you are happy. And how do you know they are happy? Their ability to take, they're not creating any backlogs. Any bug comes, just like that, he's fixing. That is what you need, when you say that, he's happy, or, he's capable. So please, some of these measurements are important, but they're not enough because of the subjectiveness. So keep that in mind. So what are the, you have to, as an individual, again, my focus is individual as a product, developer, not being biased about system and process, or, trying to, please others. No, you have to please yourself. It is internal, right? So as internally, you have to, make sure that, you are actually, feeling good about, reading a code, keeping it simple. And, the test again, there's a lot of debates we hear that, writing test takes more time. Then the next question we ask is, without test, how do you debug? They will say, I do, system out println. How many system out printlns? And then once we go and count it, that itself is, 20, 30, and then they would have already spent, 2 days on where to put, system out println. So in those 2 days, a good guy would have written 20 unit tests easily, and you would have fixed the problem also. So that way, yes, again, please, yes, bear with me when I say these are all subjective, but as a developer, you can easily find whether it is a waste or whether it's a rework, or are you just debating for the sake of being in the system. So yeah, basically, yes, I'm more simplifying it, where, you have, feature story, and also have a technical test stories, wherever you think, if you need to justify to your efforts, then create, technical test stories. You can mix and match as per your comfort, or you can actually separate them. Maybe you invest 80% of the time, in the features, 20% on the technical debt. But I would say, I mean, better is inlining. Yeah, you randomly do it because you are a master developer. When you're doing a feature, you think refactoring is required, do it. I mean, if you want to file, bug and, refactoring technical, please do that. So as long as you're not asking for a time, I think, anybody will actually accept it. But yes, you also need to show that where your time went. It is always a good practice that, yes, this work was done, as a part of technical debt story. So I would always recommend this approach. But yes, some people, who want to be more systematic, they can try this approach. So again, yes, please make sure that, you're not responsible only for all this, make it work. That's what, we are very good at. But beyond that, there are so many other things, where you have to take care of. If you take functionalities, one triangle, there are 100 other things you have to take ownership of. If you're not seeing that, taking the ownership, actually, yes, you are actually killing the opportunity to improve the product, killing the opportunity to perfect the code, and then enjoy the benefits of it. So otherwise, you're already in the messy state, and then you will actually, are clueless. And if you as a developer are clueless, we know what happens, right? Those products that cannot, exist, or it will cost millions. Every company, there's a statistics show that like companies like Oracle and all, just because of technical debt, every year they're actually charging, they're over investing more than $200 million to $500 million. It could be various form, that, customers they may lose, or, they were not able to gain new customers, or, there is an attrition, or, they're purchasing, a lot more hardware than, required. So all this, if the problem is not that it takes more time or less budget, or, more budget. It is about, not taking efficiency very professionally. So the best cost can come from, best efficiency, definitely not from weak efficiency. So that way, please don't, put your job is not make it work. Make sure that, it is perfectly done. So incrementally make your code better, and then follow discipline on steroids. This is again from one of the book. I think everybody can say it, but I think as a developer, you should have a personal software process, which you cannot, give up. And keep, focus on these metrics. Not that, you have to go and comply to metrics, but to open up, what refactoring I should do so that, I can fix it easily. So again, some of them, they're good for management, but, for you, it is an input for you to what refactoring you should do. So some of these terms, you may keep using it again in the context of how do you make it, incrementally better. Always keep this, rule in mind. Always leave the code you are editing, a little better than what you found it. So that way, what happens, if you're a long-standing developer in for a product, you will automatically see the entire code base will just like that, become better. And another risk, you as a developer, or you as a manager should see that, what happens, something happens, an employee traveling in a bus, and if something happens to him, what will happen to the takeover? So if you can reduce that risk also, clean code helps. If the code is simple, there are many, anybody else can take over. But that is because that kind of passion will come only when you feel that product is more important than myself. Unless, you have to put product first. Broken window problem is exactly opposite to Boy Scout principle, where, you see that, if something is already broken and if nobody is touching it, then other people will start, throwing thrones or making it more complex. So just make sure that, you're aware of this. And, complexity, again, whenever you find a complexity, yes, you have to take it challenging and then start doing something for refactoring. And yes, all of you must be knowing about code smells, these are all very practical. But again, live in this world, then, you will find time. So sometimes you see, a lot of nonsense code which is left over, and, nobody knows that, whether it is really required. So that way, you have to act. I mean, again, I come from a product first background. I know that, whatever I'm saying is not practical, but if you are able to show that, as individual you perform, any manager will give you freedom. Only thing is, if you are afraid, then they are actually, they say leave it. But you should not spare any code. I mean, beyond certain, point. First time you can spare, second time you can say, okay, third time you have to remove it. So that is the way you have to have that mindset. So I told you so many things, right? Because, they're all not, anything new, but I just try to reiterate. But what does it mean, how to simplify it? Do we really need Boy Scout rule or, we broken window theory, code smells? Do I need to know, what are these, cyclometric complexes? They're all very big terms. But I will give you a very, very simple style, which everybody can understand. We have already overcomplicated or the name of technical debt, measuring metrics. You don't have to do anything. Just look at it. So what we need is, if I want to make my code maintainable, what do I need? So basically, there are many ways to look at it. So I can see that, there are 4 graphs here. Hello?
Yes, sir. You're talking about the 4 graphs. Yeah.
Yeah.
So basically, then let's not get boiled down by technical jargon, but my way of simplifying it is very simple. If you are actually refactoring a UI application, take a lot of clues from the UI. In the UI screen, I'm able to see 4 graphs or 4 real-time graphs. So can I isolate a code which actually means 4 modules to me or 4 classes to me or 4 packages to me? That itself, if you really see it, and then, there are, so you see that, we have now made it, the dialogue also is one more, respiratory rate, no vital signs detected. So at least, you can see 5 entities here. At least 5 classes are not there. So which is a clear opportunity for you to refactor this one main class into 5 classes. And which is very simple, right? If you can really think about it. So this is what we have done. So what is that we have done? We have an activity called Bain. I think namings also will change. This is a graph activity.
Yes, sir. We can see it now.
Okay. So now what we are saying is, just try to now, if you really see this was one class and with one package. So you at least, because you have to do incremental, it is very easy for you to say that there are 5 entities. Can I have 5 packages? I would not say 5 classes, because when you start doing refactoring, the associated to that, each one of them, you may get more classes. But again, it is left to you. But yeah, my experience says that you will have different packages. At least have, map UI with, packages and corresponding code you try to put it. That way, what happens if there is a bug in one of the entity, you know which class to go and touch. That itself is a great value. Otherwise, in this code, all 800 lines, you already lost. Yes, everything is there in this. All the 4, everything is there in this 800 lines. So now again, I'm saying it about practically. Yes, when you see this kind of thinking, please try to see. I would recommend, take clues from the bugs, where they come from, or how the product will look like, and then at least have that many packages. Again, in the context of product, they make sense, because, the products are large code, and at least have some packages. And then, we are related to data. We have the one which is reading data, and then, collecting data. That is what is mocked. So that is all data package. And these are the handlers. You see this? There are 2 handlers, raw handler 1, raw handler 2. These are actually a bad name, but, because we could not talk to domain experts, we had to name them like that. And then this is another F50. Yeah, that's one of the things we could figure out was F50 handler, and other is a heartbeat rate. So now this becomes much more meaningful and easy for you to fix bugs. So this is not something, you can go and tell, managers that, yeah, boss, the other guy has screwed it up. So I have to make sure that I have to need time. But please use it is a class extraction, code extraction, FUT. So that way, you are at least able to identify something. And then, you also have dialogues, UI utils. So this, we also have dialogue utils, which is supposed to do that, show the dialogue. So yeah, so anytime now, if you see, even after so much, yeah, I was not able to figure out, where is this dialogue utils, which is come into activities, which, then you have to inspect, have I put it in the right place, because it is an activity at UI. So this is the right thing. Maybe my thinking has to change. But if it has been in somewhere else, I do a refactoring and then put it in that correct. I mean, I don't fear for, creating a new package somewhere else and then refactoring it. So this is what is inline thinking. So the developer, some code works like this. Now you are coming reverse and then making sure that, code is, making me, I'm able to point to parts of the code related to that UI. Is this clear so far?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So now this is where I would say, please use, I think I don't want anybody to debate on, yes, more classes, maximize classes, interfaces. This is the real core of our experience. Where after seeing, you don't have to worry about this metric, that metric, but add more classes, add more interfaces, have more abstract classes, have more packages. Even if it means, previously it was 800, there were only 10 files, even if you make 200 files, I'm okay. Because that is the way your intellect is growing. Otherwise, if you put one class with 800, how intelligent you are only becoming more blunt, in using, reflecting those, experiences. And, you also make most of these fields final as much as possible, which could include classes, fields, methods, and method parameters. And do create static methods. The beauty of, static methods in Java is bad, but when they come to Kotlin, they are much good, right? They become objects, right? And write test classes, method should be more than one, more than one main code. So, and minimize the variables. So this is another area where, because we have seen the patterns, so try to minimize the public variables. And then, if you can't do it, at least make them protected. I think the number of public variables should be least. Protected could be little more. Package could be little more. Private could be much more. So that is where you have control, right? Otherwise, if it is public, the number of users are increasing. And minimize number of method parameters. And minimize imports. This is another clear sign, right? If you are actually having too many imports, which actually mean, that a class is doing too much. And you can increase number of methods, but make sure, the number of lines in that each method are much lesser. And in a package, try to make sure that, you should not have too many classes and packages. At least create a sub packages if you think.
One quick question here, if I can ask.
Sure, please.
On the number of imports, right? See, I do understand there is a practice on the number of lines in a method. Basically, there is a recommendation like 15 lines can be max, not beyond that. This is what I've heard. I do practice it, right?
Sure.
Likewise, do we have a measure, like an approximate measure on the number of imports that can go in a class as a best practice?
See, more than 5 is actually a dangerous signal.
Mm-hmm.
But actually, as you minimize, minimize means if you don't have any imports, that is good. But I think you should. But I think you should have some imports, because then you're actually duplicating a lot of code. So yeah, I would say that keep them in a control. As I said, I want to talk all these in the context of individual capability, Yeah, definitely, anything beyond 5 is not advised. 3 to 5 is good.
Okay. Okay.
But I would say see it from the intent. Please, if you make,
Agreed.
so some
Not
people,
of the volume. Yeah.
Basically, you are managing you are the owner of the code, right?
Yeah.
And if more are there, it is actually sign off that you need to refactor. That's all,
Yes.
nothing else.
Yes.
So that you are simplifying it.
Sure.
So
And one other relevant question here, right? So we aren't really talking about import star. Import star is again not a good practice, right? The same number of classes in the same package, right? Java util itself, I have a couple of classes imported.
Right.
So does that also come into this?
I would say, yes, these imports try to measure from your own code rather than libraries or, from the language itself. But yes, you can go to next level, right? But at least the first level is, your own, code. Make sure that, you're not too much dependent because you have to refactor that part of the code.
Okay. Sure. Thank you.
In fact, I did raise a bug or a feature request for IntelliJ on, how do I sort, imports in the order of star as well as without, explicit.
Okay.
Because see, that is what, I think exactly your doubt have come,
Yeah.
And then we said, now we did not keep quiet. We know that, this is a feature required in IntelliJ that I should be able to sort them. But anyway, they did not accept it. But what I meant was, as a developer, if you get that doubt, there is a feature, hidden feature in it.
Sure.
And, some of the time, I also don't negate, there is a problem even with, the standards of our IntelliJ report. For example, if I put a parameter, a final keyword, or, if I put, a private method as final, IntelliJ reports as, final and the private are redundant keywords.
Right.
Which is actually not, it's a wrong way of, alerting. Can anybody tell why?
See, the tool reports in terms of the restriction, but the contextual meaning are both are very different, right?
Right. So we are talking in the context of refactoring. The private method may become public tomorrow.
Yep. Final, the contexts are very different, correct?
Right. And then if I remove final now, and then if I make it public, then the final context is not known to me.
Yes.
So yeah, again, sometimes, I look, very obvious, but, it's very difficult even for IntelliJ to convince. They actually said, no, this is wrong.
Yeah.
So I said, at least make them as by default as, unchecked rules. That also they did not agree. Because we are talking about a code which is very, very fluid any moment.
Yeah.
And you trying to say that, private and final now, but tomorrow when I do it, it may become public or protected.
Yeah.
And then that time final will have significance. So that way there are a lot of things, where sometimes that's where I said these tools, they may not be perfect. Somebody said something and they are just, but yes, 90% they may be right, but 10% you have to be aware.
Yeah.
So that way, yes, even if you did not understand anything about metrics, anything about technical debt, please understand this slide very well. Where, yes, as a developer, you have to write many classes, many variables, many, make them as public static final. It is okay. Don't put magic numbers anywhere. So, because then it is easy for you to refactor. Why we say that? Once I say that I'm using 100, I put it in 100 places, it is very difficult for me to refactor. But if I use a variable called 100 and then use it everywhere, with one find usage, I can know who are all using it.
Single point of maintenance. That's right.
Perfect. And, we know that, if 100 is used by 100 people, that itself, we know that there's a tight coupling.
Right.
So every time, you're not in the context of Google text search. Code is highly structured. It has got so much of, lot of insights. And if you use these classes, methods, parameters, all these constructs they have given, it is very, very easy to stop regressions first. And once you get some problem, you can easily refactor. So this slide is the core of, what I wanted to convey.
Summary.
And so now let me just take you back, what is the current status of the demo, what we have shown you. And you will be surprised that, we have actually, we just saw that 1210 and then we did what we are supposed to do based on this slide, stages of slide. And then not that, I don't want to say that we have not referred it, all those 121 or something, but we applied all these. And then if you really see it, you will be surprised that, so much of reduction automatically comes. So this is the code where it is highly packaged. And, some of the names you may not like it, but I'm happy with that because as long as the guy is comfortable, we are okay with that. And then, what we did was, we broken down into 4 packages and then put it. And then if there is a common code between FFT and, respiratory rate, we have put it in, abstract classes. See, this now how architecture is coming automatically just based on the code reuse. And if that fellow, there is something which is across all the handlers, then that gets into abstract handler. So this is the way, we did not know anything about the product, but yes, we have seen something working and slowly start brought in, some maintainability. And then, you will see a lot of, constants. They will keep changing, right? You will see a lot of constants, there will be no one string, which you will use it hard coded. And then even the resources, we made sure that, the layout also was horribly written. Then we made it into a very simple table. I'm seeing. So table row that, then it will signify that, this table, this has to be still refactored. But what I meant was, there are ways you take it and then at least are you able to identify the code based on the bug or based on the new feature where it has to get in. So this is the thinking. If you put, automatically refactoring will come, and these IDE tools are powerful enough to help you. Powerful enough time to help you. And okay, I need to show you now. Yeah, what does it mean after doing all this?
We should see some improvements on the reports, the observation the tool is going to generate.
Perfect. Yes, I'm running the default IntelliJ inspection.
Yep.
So if you make them as inline habits, automatically you don't have to worry about tools. I mean, other than they may give some false warning, like as I said, private and final, which you have to defend, or you have to explain that why we don't want to do that.
You can customize, tame the tool as to not to report it, or you can suppress it.
Because see, so by default they are giving a wrong rule, so you have to suppress it. In fact, I would say opposite is right.
Yes.
You have to put more final variables. See, now it is saying that no suspicious code found, which means from 65 or 103, it has become to 0.
Great.
And then I can also run, SonarLint. So yes, I think these are all some to do. Well, while doing refactoring, we know more things to be done. And this is again, we're trying to avoid debugging. But this is the only one which is still we are struggling. Where it gives you a lot of complexity. We did reduce it from, I think from 35 to 26. But yes, now this is the one where, we still need to do some work. But actually, all those 1200 actually has become one. Other one, if you can excuse, because we know that. So what it means, this also substantially improved. And then I can do even PMD. So there are 7 violations, but unfortunately, I think some of them are on the generated code. Build config is a generated file, not it's automatically generated file. So that way, this is also we can completely ignore. So what I meant was, yeah, if you do simple steps, I mean, it would take enough time for us, but just following the slide of, just following this slide mantra, many things can automatically get away. And it becomes more readable, and you as a developer, you become, expert in, controlling your time. This is like a QA plug output. There are two. Again, I think this is again build config. So one of the beauty after refactoring was, once we made it into small Java classes, and we were using Kotlin, conversion, and everything became a Kotlin now. So that way, yeah, trying to convert everything as a Kotlin as one class was very difficult, and it was challenging. But yeah, once we simplify it, and then we also added a lot of features to this. While doing it, we did add a lot of features, which I can tell you. So that way, yeah, by following simple rules, you can do wonders. Where are 1200, reports, and where are, 4 or 5, including to do or, something related to generated file. So now you tell me, how much time you would have saved in this approach versus living with that approach and trying to patch.
Yeah, it takes a while in the beginning, right? As long as we do the proper planning and make the orchestration right. So when the construction will take a good amount of time. Thereafter, maintenance will be definitely a good smooth flow.
Right. No, that is one way of saying it. Other approach is while doing a new things, in fact, I told you, right? We have not done not done all these for the sake of maintainability.
Correct.
While adding.
That example you gave $2 rather than $10.
Right. Yeah, final results is almost, actually 6 are there. It is almost 220%, by a factor of 202 times, we reduced all the reporting. Right. What you said is, see this, but only thing is don't put a fully stop that, yeah, once it is well structured, only I will do it. Yep. So your duty is to make it structured every moment you touch the code. That is where we embrace little refactoring. And I'm not sure where I wrote, we have actually added a lot of, while adding features, we have done this. It was not a separate exercise.
Okay, got it.
Maybe I can share it later. I think I don't know.
Yeah, that's where the obstacle as well comes, right? We don't have a big bang time to sit together and prepare this all together. Perfect. So at every little opportunity, we try to squeeze in a bit. So that way we can make an incremental change towards the big journey. Yeah, exactly.
As long as after all this, if you think, yeah, you can inline refactoring while doing other work, that is the best, knowledge share, I would have done it for you. And that is possible. I'm telling you, yes, we are seniors, not just because we are seniors, we can do it.
Yeah.
I say even seniors can do it, juniors can do it very well.
Yeah. So the Boy Scout rule that you made it, right? Leave the code better than what it was previously.
Right.
That's a good principle. Yeah.
And just keep this in mind. It is, yeah, because juniors can digest this very well. Yep. How can I write more classes from the existing classes? All this, this is what is at the core of it.
I have a question here.
Sure.
It's a classic challenge for any team is to know, should we look at the urgent or should we look at the important? Now, some teams might take an approach that, I will focus a dedicated set of individuals on the urgent and a dedicated set of individuals on the important. Now, that might lead to a lot of hard work in the team as to, Why are some people working on more important things, and why am I being asked to work on the more urgent things? Which I absolutely do agree. But if we take the approach of inline refactoring, where when we look at the piece of code, and as Nagendra sir clearly mentioned, that if you ignore it once, you ignore ugly code once, maybe twice, but if you're encountering the same ugly code thrice, you address it then and there. You don't keep it again on the back burner. Oh, I'll take it back on the fourth time or the fifth time. With this approach, the only challenge which I see is that given that everybody is happily jumping in the agile bandwagon, you always have a fixed amount of time. So where do you factor in this aspect? I saw some of the comments where people were saying that we should put in 15% of our time,
Yes.
and on those lines. But see, all those are figures that, or all we are talking about is a process that, okay, we will do this. Now the processes can help only if the team buys into it, or if the team is that mature to put it. At times, as he said, that we do not get a lot at what do you say, intelligent or capabilities at the same level. So what's the easiest way to start? That's what I was trying to think, because everybody will have their own opinion. Somebody will say, I will divide it in two teams, two streams, or whatever. So what's the easiest way to start? Is just just simple thumb rule that if I encounter it more than X amount of times, whatever is the threshold defined by the team, we fix it and we take more time for it.
See, in this context, I'll ask you a question, right? So now let us say that, you as a developer are given, Unix machine and Windows machine.
Okay.
Right? You're supposed to develop a code either using Unix machine or a Windows machine.
Okay.
Now you're already very familiar with Unix machine, but it doesn't have IDE support. Yeah, maybe because it is Java, there may be an IDE support. But now what happened was you went on with, Emac kind of editor and did all that. And then you have seen some Windows guys. I always say Windows is a must for, IntelliJ kind of, development. Backend could be Unix. So now you have seen 10 people, being much faster because it is Windows. But yes, only obstruction for you in that to come to Windows was you have to learn something. Right? So always, it has to be, I always want to drive this as an individual judgment, not, see, for me, team is nothing but individuals doing 90% and 10% coordinating. If you expect all of them to be on the same line, it will become a political agenda. So each individual, I think we have gone to a little extreme, it is not a philosophy anymore because we have solved, biggest, $1 billion, by this approach. But it is always drive this as an individual. As an individual, you want to make sure that you want to be productive. Now, exactly like you said, refactoring, if you think it is at 15% and 20%, it is okay for management. I would say you have failed as a developer. Always look at it refactoring as an efficiency. Can I do faster this feature? I will do refactoring. If I'm not doing faster, that means my skills in refactoring have to be improved. So that way, what happens, without refactoring, definitely, you can claim that, this, as a developer, I want to put entire investment on a feature. You can do that. You can do it without refactoring and with refactoring. But 90% or 99% of the time, we can prove that, with refactoring, you can do it faster. And if it's not there, it is self-duty for you to improve that, how can I make sure that, refactoring can help me? Like, yes, maybe you can have some reference, senior or somebody else, junior who is very good in refactoring, and show that, please, refactoring is a technique of writing new code. Faster, safer, easier. Please, yes, I know all of you are coming from, IT services and, that unfortunately, that is the state of the industry. It is like this, there was some, people keep giving, right? If you're doing a war, with rectangular wheels and, somebody comes with a gun and you don't buy it because, he's already busy with, rectangular wheels. So please look at refactoring as a way to do things faster. And if you are seeing it, in the context of manager, I would say, please ditch that thinking. Yeah, you're not seeing in the context of manager, look at it as a developer. So that, what is that you need to do refactoring faster than without refactoring. Unit testing faster than without debugging manually. So that is what is the agenda I'm trying to, tell all of you that, if you need to scale up, you need to make sure refactoring takes lesser time. You need to make sure, in fact, I told you, right, in this context, this customer was always, he has spent, people said, almost, I think initially, they do give, a lot of quotes, from Indian style, vendors. Somebody said, 1 month, after 3 years, he's still doing it. So my request to you, all of you is, yes, you can differentiate it. All the differentiation, I can see that, all coming from wearing a hat of managers. But if it is inlining, it is about you. What is efficient for you? Is it refactoring approach or without refactoring approach? Like Souvik also, repeated that, if you're touching 1 time, 2nd time, 3rd time, it is just a self-satisfaction that, oh, I have tolerated this enough.
Yeah.
So that is the way you have to now, I cannot tolerate. If I am there, from day 1, we will not tolerate. So does it answer?
Yeah, I think I get the point. The biggest takeaway from this session should be that what is it's not a culture change, it's not a process. It's a change on an individual level. That do I want to make my life easy? If the answer is yes, then I should look at inline refactoring as the the toolkit I will carry with me each day to work. I will, every time I touch a piece of code, I will try to refactor it, because either it will make my life better if I touch it the next time, or it will make somebody else's life better if I touch it, if somebody else touches it next time.
Perfect. Golden word. Yes, that is what it is.
Because I think culture, and to sum it up, it's more of a bottom-up approach where the individual changes, hence the team and hence the organization, rather than being pushed from top down as to, we should do this to make our life easy, and then things getting pushed down.
Yes, indeed. So I would supplement it. That's a very valid statement that you put it, right? So eventually, not everything, it's a trade-off. I would probably sum it up from my perspective, inference, right? We do need to have a buy-in. It depends on the amount of tools that we put in or whatever. The toolkits has to be allowed, right? For which we need a buy-in in terms of time and money, etc. But the very main essential ingredient is the mindset and the appetite for the people to execute it as and when possible, right? So at the end, I think one of the slides is clearly mentioned. Do run this before you check in the code. Make it as a practice, as part of a checklist. So some amount of refactoring and unit testing, etc. All these you should do it before you actually decide to check in your code at the end of the day and leave for the day, right? That discipline is more like a self-discipline. So that way, yes, it would definitely bring in a change.
And I think there's a very interesting comment from Sanjay, which he's highlighting a very crucial point. He's saying that, most of the code which you write is quite simple. It's not very complicated. Now, if you write the correct amount of unit tests around that code, I have the confidence to go ahead and refactor my code without worrying about breaking things, because I have the fallback of the unit test. If I made a mistake, my unit test will tell it to me upfront, and then I can address, even if there's a slight fallacy with the refactor, it will be addressed. So I think that's a very, very valid point, Sanjay, that this highlights the value of unit tests much more. It's like, it's not a single if I have to use analogy, it's not one of the legs of a tripod standing on its own. It's everything together which makes the life of a developer easy.
Exactly. I think, we are always talking about, in the context of a developer, how to do better myself. We saw one of the step where, 1:10:100, right? The unit test and refactoring is for preventive mode. It may cost 1 rupee. If you don't do it, it may cost 1,000 rupees elsewhere.
Not just for today, always thinking future as well. So long as you remain an active contributor to the project. Even otherwise, somebody else who's going to look at the code in future, people should, you should be a bit selfish and also definitely concern for others as well. Whoever is going to maintain the code. Put the project first in place, right?
Product,
Sir, if you're done, I can take a couple of the questions which I think are relevant.
Sure, sure.
Yeah, there's a question from Shiva Kumar that, if there are any, books on clean code or clean architecture, which we can refer to. I remember seeing a set of reference slides in your presentation. I think there's some references to a couple of links, I remember. Yeah. So, if there's anything in particular you would like to mention, Nagendra sir, on clean code or clean architecture?
This PPT will be there, right, for us to download and see?
Yeah, PPT I can give. Code I cannot give because
no, absolutely. No, only presentation is good enough for sir. No code,
sure,
please.
Sure.
Not for this session. I can understand. Other sessions we can.
There are a lot of books, but my only worry is, by reading books, people just follow it like a robot.
Mm-hmm.
And, because, this code, as I said, refactoring, like exactly you also mentioned that, it is a way you have to deliver it faster and faster in a smoother way. So it is a mindset. If you are seeing, some bottleneck, then it is the time to refactor and then do the next one.
Yeah. As you keep saying, right, it's basically most of mindset actually. This specific topic, it doesn't combine technology or book or anything. You need to think yourself.
Yeah, to give an analogy, it's like, I know the traffic rules. Do I follow it? Because if I know it,
yes,
it's bookish knowledge. If I follow it, it saves my life.
No, I am telling you, even if you follow traffic rules, can we avoid traffic congestion? No. So what I meant was, yes, these books can give you only the first 10%, but you have to master on how to build on your own culture based on those 10%.
Yeah, absolutely, sir.
It is like not following the traffic rules only when the traffic inspector is police is watching.
Yeah, that's an even better analogy.
Right.
Or expecting government to work right because the rules are right. Rules are never right. Government is also never right. So somewhere in between, you have to build yourself. That inline refactoring. In fact, you should say comma unit testing. So we have done this without unit tests. It is actually not our culture. But yeah, we were able to manage it because of that experience.
I have one other question, Nagendra. Right? Yeah. So typically we get, as you rightly said, right, become habituated or over obsessed with certain things over the period of time, right? For all practices also, there is an
efficiency. Please, I would say you should be over obsessed with your own efficiency.
Hello.
Right.
Hello.
Hi, Souvik.
Hello. Yes.
Hello. Yes, Souvik. Oh, he's in a call. I think he's got a call. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Good.
So my question here is, Nagendra, right? In the terms of refactoring umbrella, do you really recommend some anti-patterns? Especially, every other pattern we do have. If something is over, again, I'm not asking just for the sake of it, right?
Sure.
A very meaningful anti-patterns would you recommend to touch upon? Or we start thinking that is something not very get used to that, right, people?
Yeah, basically, you have to, I think, one of the anti-pattern we observe is, people follow it as a rules.
Yes.
That is something we break it, if you think, that rule itself was applicable elsewhere, not here, we recommend, let's change it here.
Yep.
We had a very interesting session sometime before. So maybe one anti-pattern I will tell you. People chasing SonarQube score. I got 80%. I got 85%. I got 90%. That actually kills your code. If you are over obsessed with SonarQube scorecard, you are probably killing your code.
Right. Yes. I think, don't too much depend on the tools.
Exactly.
They give you enough information, provided you know how to master them and utilize that information.
True.
So
I do that. Thanks, Satish. Certainly, that's a valid point. See, I would like to share my experience. A couple of times I used to get a warning on duplicate codes. It's a very practical scenario. Everybody can do it, right? Even when session was running, I ran a PMD, the tool on my IntelliJ IDEA. I know for sure that the duplicate is valid. Some amount of duplication will be justified, right? Just because the tool is saying I don't blindly go and change it. I'm convinced on myself that the ability that code is required to keep duplicated because it needs to run in its separate context on its own. So that judgment we take it, that's how we should be. Yeah.
Yes, finally it is an individual call. I want to break other one is that, team does not mean all of them should be on the same point. As long as you are accountable for certain code, you should be given freedom. I know I mean, I think another pattern is, yes, we are too much based on, how the IT services have been wanted to drive software engineers. Come out of that.
Okay.
So yeah, because we are driven by, not by, our own intuition. We are driven by what system thinks, what I am accountable. So those and all should come out. Then automatically they become, children's play. I mean, you can easily do it, but yes, on a large scale, it is still there. After all this, there is so much of complexity.
Yeah.
In my experience, I mean, I don't know, I just want to share my thoughts on why we have this bad code, first of all. So one of the experience that I have is, even if you want to write good code, it's not like you need to convince a lot of people actually. And that's a very difficult part, to convince people, articulate this, that what is the benefit. That is the major issue.
So yeah, what the anti-pattern, exactly what you are telling me is, our definition of team is wrong.
Yes, yes.
So Nagendra, the question that I asked in the beginning of the session, right? Do you touch base on the actual NFRs in terms of some amount of stuff, right? So within the code, optimization, performance, all that is certainly within the vicinity of a developer, where he can make a better API or, play around with alternatives. But in terms of the infra, the other aspects, which is not really bound to the vicinity of a developer, to what extent, we expand our horizons to cover that?
So I would recommend, see now infra also has become a code, right?
Yeah, IaaS.
Or PaaS or, SaaS.
Yes.
So all that deployment also, you should, I mean, I think if I'm a developer, I make sure that as Spring developer, I try to make sure and I review that part of the code and apply the same object-oriented principles, so that, we are not unnecessarily, firing up hardware. So if you really see that, modified one, it is much, much faster automatically. We have not done anything except that, I mean, other than refactoring while adding new features, but we took a control of those codes, and then automatically it became faster.
Okay.
So like you said, if somebody complains that, my infra is more, my recommendation is, as a developer, you have to make sure, you are performing very well on a single hardware.
Right.
So that is your, scope. On a single hardware, you are doing excellent work. Then, we will have to see, if there is a problem with the distributed nature, and you have to replicate that, in the form of a test case, which you can mark, and then start seeing optimizing the code.
Okay. Yep.
So everything, see, I think the beauty of enterprises, in spite of, we may comment, they are this, that, and all, you get the feedback. You get the feedback. Only thing is, don't take the feedback as manager sees it. See it as a developer responsible for clean code. Then you will find a better way of doing it. As I said, yes, when we said, the mocking is not required, people are giving, then, when we measured all their times, it was much more.
Sir, do you have any source of the statistic which you mentioned about 1 rupee as the cost of refactoring and inlining versus 10 rupees and the 1,000 rupees? Is there any source for that information?
Oh, it's all copied material. It is all by.
No, I'm asking for, because this ties into the second question which Raghavan had, that how do I, provide the right, background information to, the higher stakeholder management, that, okay, this is why we should do it. So if there was any, by any chance, any, if you had, remember where the source was, because I know, it's public.
I can get it, not a problem. I can give you that source. But I would say, please not that managers does not know this. Because we have very vast of experience of working with senior management. They all know everything. Their only fear is that, you will ask them for more time. So that way, please, as I said, it is no more between management and you. It is between you and your efficiency.
Yeah, that's right, Nagendra. I'm not denying it. But sometimes definitely there is a trade-off. That's why we ask about it. It's all about, what? I give you 9 women, you get a child in 1 month. That's a typical developer versus manager fish market fight, right? See,
Right.
certainly I'm not denying it. It's like Satish also mentioned, everybody has to come into agreement, right? It's not just a developer, not just a manager, not just a lead tester. Every one of us should come to this mindset where we adopt and embrace the culture of making a clean code, better code, and quality code that drives the efficiency and performance. And
No, but I would tell you here, see, the definition of clean code also will never be clean.
correct.
And
It's subjective.
Yeah, so maybe an interesting difference actually. So we are considering that clean code will reduce the cost, correct, Nagendra?
It should reduce the cost.
Okay.
If you are satisfied.
But if people tell you that clean code will reduce the profit, what will you challenge? Because the complexity that we invest is the money that we get as a service industry, correct?
Perfect.
The more the complexity of the system, the more the billing hours will be.
Right.
And
Exactly. That's what I'm saying is a trade-off, Satish.
This
That's what I've been saying, that is a trade-off.
You cannot, I mean, the cost depends on where you actually belong to. If you belong to product side, you might consider that it's a cost that you incur. If you belong to a service side, it's a profit that you make.
Exactly. Now you understand when I said, clean code should cost much less. So the real difference is, yes, it is not that in a clean code, you can with, clean code, you can deliver products 10 times cheaper or 10 times faster. Because the products are anyway very complex.
Yes.
They are anyway complex. So unfortunately, like you actually told the real truth of industry. I was hesitant to say that. But real problem is our business model is wrong. That is where all of you are talking about how do I convince manager? Why should we convince manager? Did you convince manager that, for a feature I need this much time, you have to give it. So, but if you start...
Convincing is all about, to buy in the time that is required for me to put in some extra accessories, right?
No, I would say that that means, you are already agreeing that, you are selling time, not the results. And that is where technical debt is growing. Technical debt is growing more and more.
Yes. I had an instance where there was an XML file and it takes 3 days, for making those kind of changes. And we found a way to remove that XML file so that it's natural. Even business owner can make it directly. But we are not able to move it to the production, because if you move it to the production, it's a profit loss. One developer, 3 days an hour, 3 days of a billing hour will be losing. And we were not able to challenge this particular point actually. But that's unfortunate, but that's a reality.
No, that's it. This is a good innovation. I remember in some days where, we were able to bring down, build time from 2 hours to 5 minutes. So what I know, it must have been given to some, IT services company. They were compiling each Java class with, from a build, with, Java tag and doing all that. We said, start, and it took 5 minutes. And I remember that manager, somebody was opposing it. But we finally did it because there we were the owners. We said, boss, why are you wasting our time?
Nagendra, I am a delivery lead, as you say, right? I also made some changes in the release process management, right? During our production releases, people used to take hours to verify post-production.
I'm sorry, Raghav, I'm sorry, your voice is a bit...
Is it better now? See, what I'm saying is, as a manager, I wear a different hat with that technical manager, I would like to put it. As a technical manager, I do introduce changes in the process. One of our releases used to take hours together to verify it.